Hello and welcome to Pitch Purpose, the podcast for marketing leaders in purpose-driven organizations. Behind every business, there's a marketing team working to balance profit and purpose. I'm Ian Scott, CEO and founder of digital agency Exceptional, and I'm joined by my brilliant co-host Emma Healy, MD, founder of PR, content and video agency Thinking Hat Media.
Thank you, Ian. In each episode, we talk to some of the country's most experienced CMOs and marketing directors about marketing moments that have defined their organisations, from campaigns that broke the internet to pioneering initiatives that set new standards. We uncover how those big ideas came to life and what happened once they launched.
We'll uncover the heart behind each campaign, why it mattered, and the real impact that it created. Along the way, I'm going to share some lessons that we both picked up. And yes, we'll also get practical, from rollout costs to return on investment. The numbers will tell their own story. This is a show for marketers in purpose-driven organizations who want to learn how others have successfully balanced purpose, profitability and commercial growth. Today, we've got a bit of a slight twist because our focus is also going to be on fundraising, where I believe there are some strong parallels between that and marketing.
So welcome to Pitch Purpose, and today we're joined by Sarah Fields, a seasoned entrepreneur and management consultant with over 20 years of experience. Sarah is also co-founder of Little Kickers sports franchise, and she's now dedicated to bringing clean water to rural communities in Africa through her position as board member and trustee of Sand Dams Worldwide. Sarah, welcome to Pitch Purpose.
Thank you very much for having me. It's delightful to be here.
You're welcome. If it's okay, let's dive straight in. Sure. Tell us about the work of Sand Dams Worldwide, and also could you explain what a sand dam is for anyone listening who doesn't already know?
So Sand Dams Worldwide is a charity. It's set up over 20 years ago. UK-based charity, has about 7 full-time staff in the UK and a network of implementation partners across East Africa. It has operated in 10 different countries of the world. So it has a great deal of experience and a very experienced staff team that I'll come on to. The objective is to enable the building of a water capture technology called a sand dam. And the best way, really, to understand how this works in a nutshell is to watch this short animation.
Just imagine if you had to spend 12 hours a day collecting water. That's the challenge facing hundreds of millions of women and children in the world's drylands. In 1 or 2 short seasons a year, heavy rainfalls wash away vital topsoil. Most water ends up in the ocean, whilst that remaining quickly dries up. Just imagine if there was a solution. It starts with a sand dam. Sand dams are reinforced concrete walls built across a seasonal riverbed, the cheapest form of rainwater harvesting in drylands. Seasonal rainstorms surge down the valley, carrying water and soil. The sand in the water sinks, with most of the water and silt flowing over the top of the dam. Within a day, or maybe 2 or 3 seasons, the dam fills with sand. The volume of sand behind the dam holds 25 to 40% water. This protects the water from evaporation and filters it clean. Pipework built into the dam provides easy access from a tap or animal trough. Shallow wells pump water from the recharged aquifer, up to 40 million litres of water. A new life on tap. But that's just the beginning. What happens next transforms lives. With more time to farm and terrace the land and water to grow trees, the environment flourishes, giving the whole community hope and opportunity. Women and children complete their water chores within 30 to 90 minutes. Children can now spend a full day at school. Women can invest time in growing more food, both fruits and vegetables, and a wider range of drought-tolerant crops, bringing better nutrition and extra income. Now that's communities transforming their own lives. Please support the building of sand dams to help 75% of the world's poor. The reality is that sand dams help communities to transform their own lives, one dam at a time.
Sarah, the work of sand dams worldwide looks incredible. Could you give us some stats? How many people are you helping? What is the work of the organisation?
Absolutely. So since inception, with about 1.2 million people have been directly lifted out of water poverty.
Wow.
And prevented from having to do these long, dreadful 6 to 12 hour a day walks across parched scrubland to go and collect water. And instead, they've got this lovely water supply that is local, clean, safe, which is really important, and enables them to have a myriad of other opportunities to create sustainable lives for themselves. So we've built and we've enabled, I think, 1,450 across 6 different East African countries and a couple of other countries that we've worked in. And Sand Dams Worldwide has a fantastic, very audacious goal of lifting 500 million people out of water poverty by 2050.
Ambitious.
And that is ambitious. That is huge. And that is going to involve not only a lot of directly enabling sand dams, but also a lot of influencing work. So a lot of going out there to the bigger institutions and bigger NGOs, big international NGOs, and training them on how to add sand dams to their existing water capture technology capabilities, which is really important for us to do that work.
Before we get into the first segment, which is going to look at some of the marketing successes you've experienced, I just wanted to touch on the issue of image and reputation in terms of charitable organisations, because we've seen some really high-profile ones recently take a bit of a battering, the likes of Senator Barley and Prince Harry and the fallout with his board, obviously Save the Children. There's been some scandalous behaviour there.
Absolutely.
How do you keep that connection? How do you keep people invested? And has those charity scandals impacted you? Is it harder to keep people invested in what you're doing? And you're having to spend more money to achieve that endorsement?
I would say actually it hasn't impacted us at all, because those are only, although it made a big splash, the charity world is huge, and there are many thousands of NGOs working and charities working in Africa with fantastic reputations, who are unsullied, who have, like we have, incredibly engaged boards, very staff that are very long serving and really understand inside out the product that we're trying to deliver. We are extremely audited. We are, the evaluation, the monitoring and evaluation that's done is very tight. So that feedback to our donors and sponsors is ready, and it's based on, information that we're gathering all the time. All the relationships on the ground are developed over the long term. These are long-term investments. They're long-term projects. So I think we avoid... we've just avoided the sort of scandals, and I know they're out there, but actually I don't think that people make donation decisions to Sand Dams Worldwide based on what happened to a couple of rogue rotten apples, right? And that's always going to happen.
Totally. And I think you always think of, from a reputational perspective, consumers probably look at charitable organisations, the third sector, and think people working in them are maybe holier than thou and do everything.
That there's a commercial world and that there's a charitable and giving world.
Consumers can maybe feel disconnected or disillusioned by what we've seen previously, which can make actually attracting donors or maintaining them quite tricky. But it sounds like you've got a really loyal following.
Yeah, and it what it depends on. So attracting a donor and getting somebody who is willing and wants to give a donation to a sand dam to help lift a community out of water poverty involves giving them the facts. You know, and we can really do that because we've been there for, you know, over 20 years. It's not a hard sell, actually. And a lot of these people are in the space where they're looking for charities that can really evidence that their money is going to get spent in a particular way. And of course, through the auditing process, we have to account for every penny that goes out and every penny that gets spent on staff costs and every penny that's in an internal spend. And I think we're at something like 87%. It's a very good amount of money that comes in that doesn't go on operating costs, that goes straight out into the field and makes an impact. And then so it's being able to report on that, and it's also being able to very confidently report on the impact of every penny spent on the ground. The other thing about Sandoms, I would say, makes them stand out a little bit in that respect is lots of other solutions can involve a lot of moving parts, and they're difficult, therefore, to oversee and to be confident what is going where. With a sand dam, the only raw materials basically is concrete. It's bags of concrete. Wow. There are some wheelbarrows, shovels, bit of barbed wire, and a few rebars. And the rest of it comes out of the natural environment, so the sand and the rocks, and then the other thing that is labour. So, and that's done by the community members themselves. So the community members build the solution entirely by themselves with some engineering expertise. So there aren't many moving parts to have to account for. Yeah. And so we can be very transparent. And I think that's the critical word. Sandoms Worldwide is extremely transparent.
It's incredible what you can achieve with such little resources, including your team as well. To say, team. Got 7 team members.
And they're all remote. There's no office. There's no overhead spent on office.
Wow.
It's all a remote team.
Let's dive into talking about one of your most recent marketing success campaigns. And this was in association with Big Give, the Big Give's Christmas campaign. Tell us a bit about that.
The Big Give are phenomenal. So they're a UK organisation that helps hundreds and probably thousands of charities raise money through matched giving, basically. So when you give £1, it's matched with another £1. In brief, the process works where the Big Give, you go through a screening process to be accepted by the Big Give as a suitable charity for this, and then they come up with champion funding, like a champion funder who will put, let's say, 25% in. So we go to our network of supporters, so trusts and foundations, trustees, members, just our sort of a friends network, effectively. And people will pledge the other 25%. So then you've got 50% sitting in a pot. And let's suppose the target, like it was at Christmas, was 100,000. You know you've secured the 50,000. You only get it if you get £50,000 worth of public donations in.
What happens if you fall short?
Then you only get what you've matched. So if the public gave 20,000, you'd get 20,000, so you'd get 40,000 in total.
How do you set that fundraising target, for example?
So it'll depend on what we feel is an appropriate amount to ask for. So you don't want to go way over or way under, and that's experience for sure. And also what we're trying to achieve. So this particular campaign was for Ethiopia, was to build 2 sand dams in Ethiopia, enable 2 communities to have farm leader training, to have training in wash and sanitation. So we knew how much it was going to cost. And we knew that was Ethiopia is, it's hugely important to get a program up and running there. So that was going to be the focus. It could have been Malawi, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Kenya. So it could have been a different country. It could have been a different number of sand dams. So it's an assessment done again by our very experienced team. We've got a programs lead called Christine Winnie, who's spent many, many years going out to all our different projects and would understand, okay, that's a good package and that's a package that is going to appeal. I think as well, if we've done a couple in Kenya before, we would tend to go, okay, let's do Ethiopia. If we've done, we'll go to Malawi. You're spreading the love, and you're spreading the interest in different. And some countries, some donors want to be sort of first in the ground. They want to come to a new country. Other donors want to see consolidation of projects in the existing countries. So
let's talk about numbers. What was your target fundraising for the Big Give last Christmas?
100,000.
100,000.
Yeah. So we wanted to come and walk away with 100,000. Yeah.
And what did you get?
105,141 and 50 pence. I
Good
think.
memory.
Yeah. And the 50 pence is just as welcome. Every penny counts. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
And that's including gift aid. I should say that.
Okay. Congrats on that. That's a fantastic amount to have raised. What were the activities involved in raising that kind of amount?
Yeah.
So I imagine that it would have come from a number of different sources, your own donors, private sort of networks,
Yeah.
friends of the charity. But I also, from our call we had, sort of pre-production call, we spoke about a particular campaign on
Yeah,
social media.
absolutely.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so the budget for that was just £500.
£500.
Yeah, so £500 effectively. I think the return on investment's over 200 to 1.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. And so the team, it's all down to the work that the team do in the background. So they had Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn campaigns. It's all phased in. So you have, obviously, because it's the big give, you have this pre-appeal phase where we've reached out to all our trusts and foundations, as you said, and then the actual 6-week lead up where we're running that £500 worth of Facebook ads and going out on all our platforms with content. It is about 6 weeks or so, but it's quite targeted.
Yeah.
So in the background, the team will have decided which ones of our donors are likely, which segment, if you like, is likely to want to be interested in giving to this particular campaign. What sort of content? So a lot of work will have gone into preparing the content to being able to talk to donors or talk to community members in Ethiopia and put that messaging and that content into the campaign.
So you mentioned there about it sounds like you're getting some stories out and amplifying the stories that have been brought in. Did you say the community?
Yeah, absolutely. The community itself. So photos, stories, engagement,
And
little videos.
That played a big role within the social media marketing campaign that you ran.
Yeah, I think definitely. And especially for getting in some new donors, which, again, the team had sort of set the KPIs, I think, to both hit our 100,000, but also to have a bit of a focus on getting some new donors in the door as opposed to just going out to our existing ones. So that's what the Facebook campaign was about. And that was successful. I think we got 29 people who donated out of a total of 200 plus donations through the campaign who were completely new donors.
New. I'd love to have known, what was their experience with either charitable giving in this way, and in particular as well, Sandowns Worldwide, before they would have donated. Not that I would expect you to know that,
sadly,
or it to be known, I should say.
Yeah.
But the journey, drawing parallels perhaps on the buying journey within marketing parlance. The journey they would have gone on to then become a donor.
Yeah, to get to the point where they actually,
of the new people that
gift.
donated, what did you any sort of insight into why they decided to donate to Sandowns on that particular occasion?
I mean, who knows, right? It's really hard to get inside their heads, but I think we do a really good amount of messaging about the success of the projects in between, as I said before. So I think they've seen that content coming up on their social media feeds before. If they're interested, they're leaning towards Africa, or they're leaning towards, they've seen some of the big water poverty campaigns, or they've perhaps they've seen it's serendipity, and they've seen some news coverage on the problems in the South Omo region in Ethiopia and how dry it is. And I mean, you never really know what totally makes somebody make that click.
Yeah,
but you don't. It is really difficult to attribute, say, that particular click to even the donation, because I imagine that the efforts, the £500 spent in that particular campaign is just the tip of the iceberg of what Sandowns has done in the past to raise awareness around the impact. And in fact, this last click perhaps has been the
cumulative, perhaps. You'd hope, right? You'd hope that they've really seen stuff go out on all those different platforms and sort of followed it and watched it and then thought, oh, can they go on then? Feeling generous.
Well, I say that because in fundraising and marketing, both in both of those, I think it's there is an idea that you can just run a Facebook or a Instagram or a social media campaign, and that in isolation is going to get you £100,000 worth of donations. And I think actually that Sandowns has done a lot of work, incredibly well to raise awareness around and before and the run up to
it's
that
setting the
Facebook
scene.
campaign.
It's really setting the scene. So myself and the chairman, David Jordan, went back to Kenya last March, and we purposefully went back to a series of sand dams that have been around for quite a long time. So not ones that are just built, that everybody's really, ones that literally have been, the community has graduated through the full training program that they get delivered. And they've been running their own sand dam themselves as a self-help group for a number of years. And we went back and, of course, we did the before and after pictures.
Wow.
And what is wonderful is those sand dams were sand dams where we had led, so myself and several others in the organisation lead groups of donors and sponsors out to actually go and experience what it's like to build a sand dam on the ground with the community, working hand in hand with them. There's no mechanisation.
No.
It's all hand mixed, so hand mixed cement for a week. And it's an incredible thing to do. And so we were able to then send out into the WhatsApp groups of those expeditioners who've come over the years. There's a few every year. We were able to send the before and the afters and the stories and that's a way of nurturing. You're nurturing your audience. You're keeping them current with what's going on. Of course, that
proof
platform
of concept as well, isn't it? Like this is working.
Yeah, this is working. Like you can see. So people's poverty's actually statistically gone down. It's 73%, I think it is, easier for them to collect water and way faster. I mean, just heaps faster, and all this time and opportunities gone into all these other things that we've taken photos of, like the tree planting, the cottage gardens, the agroforestry. So it's telling those stories, and then I think that's what rings true when they go, okay, right, this is an appeal, and it's to build 2 sand dams in Ethiopia. Right, I understand the impact that's going to have, and I'm comfortable donating. And it's the big give. So if I give a tenner, actually that's a £20 donation. Yeah.
That's really an interesting point as well. And in terms of how the big give works and it being matched funding, because, and again, I'm trying to draw parallels between that and perhaps, say commercial organizations, but equally for those raising funds, why that is important. What is it inside someone's head that goes, this is going to encourage me, perhaps more so than before, to donate? And I imagine it's around validation. That
if somebody else believes in it and they bought into it, then that's enough for me to go ahead and make that decision. Yeah. In
Emma's and my business, we often will refer to our previous clients and the impact that they're receiving, and the fact that other people of a similar organisation have put their trust in us to deliver a campaign for them.
Yeah.
And I think there is some parallels between that, and perhaps to our listeners as well, whether they be in commercial organisations or charities, can go, well, what is my validation point? What is it? What do I need to say to our
testimonial
donors, to our buyers, that other people have made the same kind of investment, right? The testimonials,
and then it's amplifying that across channels, isn't it? Because I think when we were chatting last time, Sarah, obviously you were saying how key it is to know who your audience is, and that's how you can engage them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we're a small team with a small budget, but we spend it wisely. And I think a CRM system is, absolutely part of that. Donify is the one that we're using, and the team spend a huge amount of time. It is that longevity. I think we're very blessed that the team has been serving for so many years, because they can literally note, against each donor, you're sensitive to the fact that they might want to just invest in a wildlife proposition. So we'll only pitch the wildlife sand dams to them, or they may be interested in building in Ethiopia, as I say. So they might have a particular country bias, so it's definitely getting to know them and nurturing them, giving them the stories all year round about how successful these projects are, which is very easy to do because they're super successful. Measuring metrics, going back, feeding back to them afterwards, and also something that I think Dwayne and William and the rest of the team do brilliantly is we value the £5 donation just as much as a £50,000 donation. Every single donor gets a follow-up. They'll get a thank you or a letter or some sort of engagement, MailChimp. We use that a lot as well. So, yeah, it's a process, and I think the longer you can do it and the more experience you can build up and the more successes you have, then you get this really committed, sort of dedicated database of existing donors. And then that the new ones you're plugging into that process, and you're hopefully going to keep them.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's a process that's obviously working very well.
Yeah,
We've
I
been
think-
going 20 years.
well, I think over the lifetime of the Big Give, as our involvement with the Big Give, it's raised something
Yeah.
like £850,000 for the charity, which is enormous. You know, that's
Wow.
it's really
Are each of the
significant.
campaigns the same that you run with the Big Give? What was the focus as well of the most recent one around Christmas last year? Was there a particular message or particular story that was amplified during that campaign? You say that's what made it work so well this time.
So the particular story would have been around the communities in the South Omo region of Ethiopia. So we would have been able to, and I certainly know there was some quite harrowing interviews with community members about how life had been prior to getting the first sand dams that they'd had in that area in Ethiopia. And some of it's truly affecting, you know, and it's not, obviously it's not stuff you make up, you know, it's stuff that comes out of community interviews. And I think that probably spurred people on because it's true subsistence. You know, these are people who, if you've walked for 6 hours to go and get dirty water, you then got to chop something down to make a fire to clean it. You understand that's a knock-on effect to the environment, which is obviously a big driver of things. The other thing is climate change. You know, it's all very well for people to query why climate change, but the impacts of climate change are really hitting, you know, East Africa very hard and in the face. And I think that's very clear from what's going on in Ethiopia. So I think climate change plays into it, demonstrating that the environment benefits when you put a sand dam in, that it regreens the environment, it restores the ecosystems, it raises the water tables. You know, those kind of messages are playing quite well at the moment, I think. Regreening, restoration, you know, even landscape restoration, something that sand dams can play into. So, I think those messages probably helped.
Let's talk about another side of campaigning. And it's something I think particularly true for fundraising, and that's campaign fatigue. So there's a difference between encouraging, say, a buying action and the campaigns and messaging around perhaps nurturing. You know, and in Emma's, our business and for our clients, certainly, we always like to segment audiences so they are, you know, are we just bringing awareness to them? Do we want them to start considering? Do we want them to take an action? Are we building and maintaining trust? Are we leveraging maybe existing clients or donors in this case? And I suppose, you know, for sand dams, how do you go about understanding if, you know, how many campaigns you should run, what kind of messaging and how that messaging changes throughout the year, the difference between, say, asking and nurturing? While also being top of mind, so that when people are donating, you know, the money that maybe mentally they've got ring fenced for philanthropic purposes, that they are with you. So let's talk more about sand dams in that sense. Do you have an idea about how many campaigns that are run on a yearly basis?
So there's several campaigns. We join in the Big Give's Christmas Give. We do the Big Give Green Match Fund, which is great. And then obviously we run our own separate smaller campaigns. I think the team has learnt exactly how many to run, and I think we've run too many in the past, and we've definitely adjusted. And it's trial and error. They do a lot of let's try this, let's try that. You know, understanding the KPIs up front really, really important. So, you know, are we raising awareness? Is this just a big awareness raising campaign, or do we really want to go for click-throughs? Do we want to go for sign-ups to our email, you know, our mailing list? Or is it just a combination of all of that, or is it straight donations? So, yeah, definitely, I think the team spends quite a lot of time understanding that up front before they start putting the campaign together. And in terms of number of campaigns, there's always an awareness that you can do too much. And I think we're very lucky. I would say that donor fatigue is rare, and we don't get a lot of people who, you know, drop off, if you like, because we've got this very long-term, very loyal set of supporters. But of course, they've got to build the new donors into that mindset as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely segmenting, and I know the team spends a great deal of time in the background making sure that they really understand who they're targeting.
Great. I mean, that sounds like an ideal approach to, you know, maintaining loyalty while also building, you know, and targeting new donors. You mentioned about segmenting and about, you know, maybe the journeys that donors go on. what the kind of campaigns that you run, say on social media, probably abroad, in terms of you want new donors, but you also want to keep people informed about what's going on. You mentioned storytelling as well, which is something being a part of the Big Give campaign as well. Are there any other things that we're not sort of mentioning that Sandams do that engage with new and existing donors?
I think that we're very lucky to have a very engaged set of friends. I think that is really important. I think the serendipity and the stuff that you don't expect. I mean, we had a really big success with that recently, actually. Someone who was spoken to, I think, in 2016 in a fairly casual, relaxed conversation, I think, with one of our trustees, came in with a marvellous contribution. So having a group of, or having our ambassadors, so having people who've gone out on expedition, who've come back to the UK, who we've stayed engaged with, who then tell their friends and say, well, why don't you go out and do it? You know, because each expedition we run is also a fundraiser. So that's great for us.
Actually, Sarah, when I found out what you guys did, I immediately wanted to book myself and my 10-year-old to come.
10 is a little young, I'm afraid. We can't have a 10-year-old on a construction site in Kenya.
What's the
Wait
age
until
limit?
they're about 17, and then they can come with you. You can accompany them. 18, they can come by themselves. But yeah, Sandam sites are construction sites, and they are fully. It's quite full on. It's in very, very rural Ukambani region of Kenya, out in Makueni County, where it's very dry and sandy and hot, and it's quite a tough working environment. And you know, people do. It's a physically demanding as well as
I can
insurance
imagine.
and stuff problems. So yeah, you know, please do. I mean,
Yes,
please let him come. But,
definitely.
I mean, the way I found Sandams 8 years ago is I brought my 17-year-old son out on expedition.
Wow.
So it's a great way to start for sure, and it really does teach you, you know, all sorts about how people's lives are out there and what an impact you can make. So yeah, so I think a network of ambassadors, a network of friends, trustees, members. And certainly even for corporates and bringing corporates in and all different leads and connections. A lot of them don't come in via the campaigns necessarily, but come in via our personal contact books and connections and going out talking about Sandam. So we have a hugely positive relationship with Rotary, and we're always going out to Rotary clubs and talking to them about how impactful Sandams are. I think they've funded us to the tune of 1.5 million over the last many years. Wow. So yeah, having conversations, having it it's always on the tip of my tongue. I am the most boring person to sit next to on a plane, you know, God forbid it's a 12-hour flight.
Very much.
By the time you get to a 12-hour flight, you definitely know what a Sandam is.
What do you think the ratio of messaging that is essentially asking for a donation versus messaging and content that is not asking for a donation?
Do you know, I don't think I could give you a truly accurate representation of that. I just say we do a lot of both of those. Yeah, all the time, continuously.
And I imagine the non-asking is, I don't want to say more important, because
you can bombard people with non-asking as well. They're like, oh, here comes Sandams on my feed again.
And it's also about varying the message, because it can't be the same message.
Exactly.
It can't be the same story. It must be almost like a different reason that is equally as interesting to read and to engage, and hopefully to share as well.
Absolutely. And it's having messages that suit different people. So some people might be really engaged by the idea that a Sandam enables, so we have back migration. We have people who are actually leaving the cities, young men who are leaving the cities, been eking out an existence, you know, under $1 a day or less than that. And because they find out there's now a water source in their parents' farm and it's productive again, they out-migrate, they come back into the rural areas to have successful, sustainable, productive lives. So there's some people for whom that messaging is really important. There's some people for whom they want to know that female emancipation and empowerment is a really important part of what we do. It counts for them, you know. So yeah, it's horses for courses, I think, but there's lots of different positive stories you can tell, and you just keep telling different ones, I guess, is the trick.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot to unpack in that, and I'd love to ask you a little bit more about how you leverage ambassadors, you know, leveraging promoters, essentially. But when we spoke on our pre-production call, you mentioned another campaign run by Oxfam, which is Stay in the Fight.
Yes.
We're just going to play a video so we get an idea about what that campaign, what its objectives were.
Back in my day, it just wasn't the dumb thing. Oh, the telling off I got from my father for going. some of the naughty things we write on our placards, I wouldn't like to repeat them now. When we got there, we gave them hell. I don't do that anymore. But I'm still in the fight with every single one of you.
What do we want? Land justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Land justice. When do we want it? Now, now.
I think that's a phenomenal
Doesn't it paint
campaign.
such a powerful picture?
It really does. Yeah.
It was a very successful campaign. And I just want to unpack it in the few minutes that we've got to talk about it. First of all, I think, Sarah, you know a little bit more about the results as well in terms of what they managed to get from running this Stay in the Fight campaign. According to my notes here, we've got...
I think they got an 85% increase in support within the campaign launch quarter compared to the previous quarter, and their legacy inquiries picked up by 26%, which is huge.
It is huge.
For one particular product, yeah.
And this is fantastic. They've got, according to my notes here, about 240 pieces of earned media coverage that reached over 50 million people.
It's huge, isn't it?
Wow.
Absolutely huge.
Struck gold with that one.
Yeah, struck
Yeah,
gold.
for sure. And
but it's such an important message, and it's such a massive market. I mean, it's billions and billions sitting out there.
Does it resonate with you as a consumer? Do you buy into that?
Yeah, totally. Because you can get arrested for holding a placard up, can't you, at the moment? So I think it's it's a different world we live in, and it's very true that you can fight with your donations, you can fight with your money, you can back what you believe in. When you're making a donation, I think that's incredibly powerful.
So just to be clear, I'm not sure we have covered that this is a legacy donation. When you pass away, you leave
it in your will. So you leave in
will.
your last will and testament, you leave a donation to a charity.
And the idea being staying in the fight, that it still matters.
Yeah. That's you. Even when you're not on the planet, you're still fighting for what you believed in and for the cause that you like. Your money's still going to be doing its job.
There was a story there. I think the woman's name is Edith. Forgive me if that's not the case, but I think it's my notes. And her background and how that led to her then being able to say, I'm still in the fight, when I'm gone. It's an impactful story. And again, I wonder if that storytelling element within this Stay in the Fight campaign is what has really become this emotive driver to get people to donate. What do you think?
I think you've got to be careful. I think that one is absolutely brilliant, and that it doesn't take any risks really. It's just so true. There's so much truth in that particular angle that they've taken. I think you have to be careful not to. We have some communities that live in desperate and dire straits, and they have very difficult lives, and we try actually very actively, I know the team tries very actively to err on the beneficiary positive stories, the positive outcomes, because it's very easy to kind of get too negative and to turn your audience off actually with it's just too difficult, it's too much, can't handle it. Whereas if we're talking about something really, really positive outcome, like someone now 10 years on, we've got some children who were funded by money that was raised by the community from their Sandam, who are going through tertiary education, and they're becoming doctors and nurses and medics and mechanics and all that sort of, and that's incredibly positive. I think that's positive storytelling. So I think there's a balance between the positive and the negative storytelling, which that video just did brilliantly, isn't it? Such a great campaign. Yeah.
Are there any other particular sort of lessons from this campaign that you think we could bring into Sandam's next campaign? One of the things they didn't do, and perhaps that's also really crucial, is that the ask was subtle, and it was just at the end.
Just at the end. Yeah.
It was really much more about the story.
Yeah, so we participate in a thing called Remember a Charity Week now, and we've got a sort of legacy giving strategy, and there's a page on our website about legacy giving where you can, get the pack basically and learn about how you give and what difference that could make, after your passing. So we're starting to engage in it, and we certainly know it's a huge target market for any charities in the UK, especially when other sources of funding are perhaps more difficult to come by, and it's a very competitive market. So having that long-term view of legacy giving, I think, is increasingly important for charities, and we certainly recognise that, and I know the team are doing a lot of work on it.
Yeah. I mean, legacy giving has been around as something you could do for, well, I mean, I studied law, and that was a long, long, long time ago.
Wow.
And a few decades ago, and you could do it then.
Yeah, I think some charities are brilliant at it, and a lot better than others, for sure. Or more aware of it, and more
aware of it,
easygoing about going out and making that ask, because it is, it's tricky. It's a tricky ask, isn't it, in some respects? But I think the thing that's really chiming now as well is this this is the time for it, because this intergenerational equity, the fact that we're not passing on a planet, we're passing on a planet that's worse, not better.
Yeah.
And I think that is really chiming with people. So I think the legacy giving, the moment is now to try and really tap into that.
Great, amazing. Before we go, what would you say your sort of one big piece of advice is to maybe other charities who want to raise, the kind of funds that Sandams has been able to do?
Have a really empowered and long-serving and well-rewarded and enthusiastic team. I think, between Dwayne and William and Sophie and all the people on the team at Sandams Worldwide, they are tireless, and they really know our donor database, and they really know what a Sandams Worldwide donor is going to look like. So I think invest in your people as much as anything. And then, your storytelling.
Yeah.
So take the time to go out and talk to the beneficiaries and get those positive and sometimes, negative stories, or negative, sad stories, I suppose, emotive stories, and collect them and use them and get them out there onto different media platforms. And I think that's the way I would go.
Great. And how can people find out about you and support what Sandams are doing?
So please go onto our website. We're Sandams Worldwide. We did rebrand fairly recently, so you'll also see us online as Excellent Development, but Sandams Worldwide is our brand. Please come onto our website, look us up. Please connect with us, join our mailing list. Obviously, we'd love that to happen. And come out on expedition if that, takes your fancy, if it floats your boat.
Absolutely.
As long as you're old enough.
Because that really, as long as you're old enough.
Yeah.
But then again, we have Sandam expeditioners from 18 up to 75. So, and sometimes it's the elder people that really make the contribution, because they don't go at it hammer and tongs, and they can still move by the third day.
That's incredible. I mean, I feel a team building trip
team
coming
building trip.
Sure.
It's we have a few corporates that do our team building, and we have open expeditions where people come along for the team building, and you can go onto the website and see all the testimonials. Again, very good at capturing those. We capture them on site. We have a video team that comes out with us, so you can see lots of videos of our expeditioners talking about what a difference it made to their lives, and then of course they make a difference to the lives of communities living in these dryland areas.
Fantastic. Thank you so
we're
much.
going to leave on that note. For more from us, head over to pitchpurpose.co.uk for all available episodes, or connect with us on social media. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can spread the word and keep these conversations going. This has been Pitch Purpose, the marketing podcast with me, Ian Scott, and Em Healy. See you on the next one.
Bye.